Okay, this is our next episode of True Wrestling Fans Discussions. We're going over Goldberg's first WWE run in 2003. I'm your host, Mike.
I'm Frank, and let's jump right into his WWE career. The one guy that honestly nobody ever thought would be in WWE, and I thought the way they did it was kind of cool. The night after WrestleMania, when The Rock is out there and he's giving his speech, he's done it all. I came back. You booed me. You don't appreciate The Rock. I've beat Austin. I've done it all. And it's funny as because everybody knows that he's coming back. They're trying to downplay it, but it's not working because they're chanting his name. And Rock turns around and he's like, "Oh, just don't try to suck up to The Rock because you know his accountant Ira Goldberg." I mean, I thought that was funny. And at this point, Goldberg had signed a 1 year contract in WWE, which I didn't honestly. As the year progressed, I didn't really think he was going to stay any longer because he really didn't look like he wanted to be there.
He didn't want to be there. He was just basically doing it for the money. They have been negotiating for a while with Goldberg. I think he was supposed to show up at WrestleMania. I think he
19.
was, yeah, I think he was supposed to be there at WrestleMania. And The Rock is the one who really pushed hard to bring Goldberg in because he wanted to work with him.
Yeah.
So he
I
eventually
mean,
ends
and
up.
he was actually the last holdout because the last one before him was Scott Steiner, who had
And
showed up at the Survivor
that
Series.
and that
That
worked out.
ended in like literally a minute because once he fought Triple H, Scott Steiner just looked like crap in that match. And by
Well,
that point, they just
well, Scott was messed up. His foot was he had something called drop. I think it's called drop foot. It's like a
dropped foot.
nerve
Yeah,
nerve damage in the foot. So he
yeah.
was a shell of himself. Even though he still looked good, once he got in the ring, he was so physically compromised. He was a
He almost looked
shell.
like Brian Pillman a little bit because you remember how Brian Pillman he
Worse.
was like the physique was up here, but he had
Yeah.
the chicken legs.
Yeah, but
Scott Steiner almost looked like that a little
he
bit.
couldn't move. He couldn't do anything close to what he was able to do before. So yeah, he was the last hold. I think he ends up getting like 1.5 million for a
Yeah.
year, something like
hmm And he debuted on March 31st, 2003 on Monday Night Raw, interrupting The Rock. And it was funny how they did that whole thing. The Rock is over there going, "Oh, hold my glasses. Oh, you want a piece of me?" And he does his whole spiel. So you want to know what's next, Rock? You're next. The
that.
spear wasn't that good though.
Oh, you know what? I didn't him coming out with that leather jacket.
The
I don't
Harley
know.
Davidson jacket.
Yeah, it didn't feel like Goldberg. I don't know. It was cool to see him come back and everything, but that whole I felt like Goldberg should have came back in a different way. And from what I understand from what Bruce Pritchard says, is that this was Vince's idea. Like Vince wanted to kind of change him a little bit. Again, typical Vince
Well, he
fashion.
changed his tights. He changed his music.
Yeah. Well, they said that Goldberg is the one who changed the tights because he wanted to look more like a shoot fighter.
Well, the tights weren't bad. It's
No, the
just the
tights weren't
music took
bad.
some.
They
The
changed
music
music.
took some getting used
They
to.
tweaked the music a little bit, but him coming in and they wanted to kind of humanize Goldberg. They which no, this is what I don't understand about WWE.
Why do they
Okay,
have to leave their mark? This is why Sting wouldn't show up
no, but you
because he
got to
felt this was going to happen.
okay, exactly. You got to really think about it. Goldberg got over being this wrecking machine for that first
hmm
year and a half, so obviously we know that works. So why would you try something else?
Exactly.
Especially when you know he's only going to be around for a year, so there's no time to like mess around.
hmm
So,
And again, like we
but
just said, like I just said, this is why Sting was afraid to show up
yeah,
in
yeah.
2001 because he didn't want to be repackaged as something that he wasn't. Even though Vince claims back in 2014 when Sting finally showed up, I wouldn't have done that to you. I don't believe that
And you know what's
because he's done it to everybody else.
what's funny about this? I remember when Goldberg was coming back. I remember that night. I remember like I was obviously I was working at Blockbuster at the time. I remember I set my VCR to record it because I was closing that night. And for whatever reason, I didn't watch it at the store. I don't know why I didn't want. I think I didn't want to watch it because I didn't want to be interrupted with customers coming in. Even though I used to watch Raw every Monday,
This was
but
right before they split us up.
yeah. So I remember this, and I remember going home and I watched it and everything, and I was like fired up for Goldberg's return, and I was
Glad to
excited
know.
to see.
Glad to know TV and not working.
Yeah. So
You tell me now.
yeah.
No, just kidding. I
So
always
yeah, so
wanted
he
it.
came. Yeah, so he came back, but I thought it was okay. I just expected a little bit more for his.
I like that the fans gave him a huge pop. I really like that they were behind him. That they obviously they remembered him, and They were happy that he was there. Now, the only problem for back then was they were doing, if you remember, they were alternating pay-per-views.
Because of the brand split.
Yeah, so you really didn't get Goldberg on a whole lot of pay-per-views as you should have. So the amount of matches that he had, it was they had to do it quickly to establish him and to make him a main eventer and to put the belt on him and all this stuff. So it was really difficult. And I'm not so sure that Rock did it, but I know Jericho made him look awful in their pay per view match. And I think Jericho had a chip. Now, it's not proven, but whether or not Jericho had a chip on his shoulder because of the whole WCW thing. Because right after at Backlash, when he beats The Rock, the next pay per view that Monday Night Raw hosted, he fought Chris Jericho.
Yeah, but even that match with The Rock, they were booing him. If you watch that match over, the fans were booing him.
Allegedly, they say that, and again, not proven, that The Rock, I didn't see it. Maybe I wasn't looking hard enough, that Rock was making him look bad.
No, I think Goldberg
I don't think so.
Goldberg was rusty as hell. He hadn't wrestled in so long, and he wasn't.
Because that was literally his first match back. I don't think he fought him
and supposedly he wasn't willing to come in and train. He said he was training on his own. So they said he was being a little bit difficult, and apparently The Rock, before that match, he wanted to work with Rey Mysterio. Like, so The Rock is the one who, this is hilarious. The Rock is the one who brings him in, and he goes to Bruce Pritchard in the office, like, yeah, I think I want to work with Rey Mysterio. I think we would have a really great program together. And Pritchard was like, yeah, but you're already working with Goldberg. And he was like, yeah, no, but I think I could work with Rey Mysterio. And they were like, no, you're working with Goldberg. We already started this feud. So Rock didn't even want to work with him at that point. I guess whatever happened leading up to that pay-per-view, The Rock had already, like, I'm not dealing with this guy. The thing with Jericho, I mean, I forget when they get into a backstage brawl because they get into a fight backstage. Apparently, Goldberg said something about Jericho. It got back to Jericho. Jericho gets in his face, and they get into a little scuffle. And Goldberg tried to charge him, and Jericho put him in a front face lock, and he couldn't move. Goldberg couldn't, as big as he couldn't get out of that front face lock.
Yeah.
So they eventually broke it up, and then they kind of squashed whatever beef that they had, but.
And this man came in with a huge chip on his shoulder.
He came in with a chip on his shoulder, and then they still had the heat going back to WCW, and so.
And he's also still looked at as the WCW guy, because the WCW guys had a lot of heat from the WWE locker room.
Dude, oh man, the thing is the Goldberg thing. It starts off, it's just one thing after the other. I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember when he was shooting with The Rock, and he was in his car, and he was supposed to chase The Rock in the car? And he tries to turn and he turns the car, and the car doesn't even turn on.
Mm-hmm.
And then he runs after The Rock, but I think he runs the wrong way. And that happens again later on. It was just like
at this point, it should just be like, all right, you know what? Where's my out on my clause of the contract? I want out of here.
Guaranteed $1.5 million though, so he's not going anywhere. So
yeah. In any event, he was undefeated, but at least just for the half a year. Here, there was no 175 guys that he could beat up. Not only there was 175 guys total on the roster. He actually had his. What's up?
No, you were saying he goes on the highlight reel, right? Was it Christian that was on the highlight reel, or was it Jericho first? Because I forget. It's Christian. Because
that's actually that was his first Raw opponent, was Christian.
Right. That was done on purpose because Christian's actually a great wrestler.
Yeah.
So they put him with Christian that way to make Goldberg look good.
They didn't. I mean, they tried. But
they tried.
If the man's not willing to learn from these guys now, where he felt he had it easier and better in WCW, if you're not willing to work with these guys, then, I mean, what's the point, really? I mean, there's only so much they can do. I mean, the fans still appreciated all his matches, and I enjoyed his matches on Monday Night Raw.
I did. It was exciting. I wasn't expecting a 5-star technical masterpiece.
No.
So.
I mean, his first few Raw matches was against 3 Minute Warning as well as Christian. He had the famous the cage match with Christian, which was comical because Jericho got involved.
I remember that. Was that before or after they revealed that it was Jericho that was behind them trying to hit him with the car. There's something about WWF, WWE.
I think this was right around the time that it was
You
revealed.
remember they hit him? They tried to hit him with a car, and nobody knew who it was. And then Stone Cold was trying to find out like who it
Yeah,
was, and he was interrogating Christian. I guess
should have asked
Chris.
Rikishi.
Yeah, what is it with bald guys with goatees getting hit by cars,
Uh,
or
did he do it for the Rocket Man?
I don't know who the hell he did. Oh, he did it for Jericho. That was the storyline. He did it for Jericho.
Yeah.
And so he tried to, and then Stone Cold was interrogating, and he admitted it, and then he ends up admitting, I guess to Goldberg, ends up admitting that it was Jericho.
Yeah.
That was.
And then their match, the match that they had was just, I mean, it was they couldn't silence the boos. It was so bad.
Yeah.
And again, it hasn't been proven, but allegedly Jericho did it to make him look bad during the match because out of spite for everything that was going on.
There's even another. I forget exactly when it happens because it ties into the other story of there was a thing where he has another car. Goldberg has another car, and he gets in the car. He pushes something happens backstage. Bruce Pritchard told this story about how Goldberg goes the wrong way. Like he pushes the security guard out of the way, and Goldberg gets in the car and he goes the wrong way, and it's just a mess. And that Vince is screaming at him backstage. He's screaming at Bruce Pritchard. Like no, it's a great story. If you ever go on Bruce Pritchard's podcast, he tells the story. It's hilarious. And he tells that Vince is screaming out, "You just smeared shit all over the business. You just buried Goldberg's. You just killed Goldberg's career." And that he pulled everybody into the office and he's screaming at Bruce Pritchard. And he's like, watch the video back. And he's like, "Yeah, where's the security guard?" Because Vince was adamant that the security guard was not there where he was supposed to be in position. And then somebody else said, "Oh," the cameraman said, "Oh, there he is, boss. He's right there." And it shows that he was right where he was supposed to be. It was Goldberg that messed up. And then Vince just curses out Bruce Pritchard and leaves. Like he wouldn't even admit that he made a mistake, screaming at him. It wasn't his fault. And he just curses him.
Well, Vince isn't one of those guys that would apologize and admit when he's wrong because the ego on that man, forget it.
Yeah.
He'll just blame it on somebody else or he'll disappear for a few days or whatever the case is. It's just typical Vince. So, now we're at, he beats Jericho with bad blood, over and done with. The next pay-per-view from Monday Night Raw, and I actually liked this Elimination Chamber match. I don't know if you did. To me, it had 6 top guys. I didn't like the ending. Naturally, my boy kind of sent the 5-star match to a 1-star hotel where it was Triple H versus Shawn Michaels, Randy Orton, Kevin Nash, Chris Jericho, and Goldberg in the Elimination Chamber.
You know what the story behind that was that Triple H got injured. So in order for them to kind of cover up that Triple H was injured without taking him out, they made it a 6-man elimination chamber. That way Triple H wouldn't have to do so much.
Yeah, because he was the last one.
He was injured, so that's why they had to make that adjustment.
Is that when he tweaked his quad and they thought he tore it, but they weren't quite sure?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he pulled it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, because they had held him off of Monday Night Raw for a couple of weeks. So he just did some interview spots with Goldberg, but he didn't wrestle.
Going back a second to the 3-minute warning, I thought it was cool when he tackled was it Jamal that he tackled into the barrier?
Yes.
Rosie.
I think it was Jamal.
He speared him.
Umaga.
Into the barrier. And then he who's the one he got up into the jackhammer?
I think that was Rosie.
I think it was Rosie, right? He got into the jackhammer. That was pretty cool. And then this guy Rico was trying to fight him and he blocked the kick. Do you remember that?
Yes.
That was cool.
That shows you Goldberg's strength, like we talked about with Big Show.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not like he didn't quite jump into it as much as everybody else did. He showed the power that he has, and he held him there for a second too.
That's how you got to display Goldberg. You got to put him in those spots.
Exactly.
And you make him look good. But going to the Elimination Chamber, that's also the Elimination Chamber where Goldberg slips. Remember, he comes out, he starts throwing the punches.
Yes.
And that because your boy down. Triple H, because he spit the water, it was wet at the ramp, and then Goldberg slips on the ramp.
My boy.
I'm just saying. I mean, well, he didn't do it on purpose.
Where was your boy Jeff in this match? Oh, he wasn't there.
He wasn't there. But That match was okay. It got really good once Goldberg started cleaning the house and destroying
Oh
everybody.
yeah, I love the fact that he got his hands on. He speared Nash. Gets his hands on Orton. He gets his hands on Shawn. He speared Shawn, and I never laughed so hard in my life when Ross said he broke him in half, and I'm like, you think? I'm
Was
like,
it
because his body is like in two spots.
was it Jericho? He spears into the glass, into the
Yeah.
chamber.
Mm-hmm.
He speared him, and then
Yeah. Well, he had a vendetta with him.
Triple H is like hiding, and Ric Flair's holding the chain so it won't open, and then
They can't open the door, and
Goldberg starts.
he breaks the
Oh, that was great.
plexiglass.
See, that's great stuff, man. We watched it at your house too. That pay per
Yes.
view. We were all going crazy when Goldberg started just destroying everything.
And
But
then the typical ending with the sledgehammer when he goes for the spear and he steps out of the way and hits him with the sledgehammer. But again, because of the possible severity, they didn't know the severity of the injury, and they were afraid that if he tore it again, the time off would be even longer this time, and especially when he's the top guy on Raw. So, because I remember when Goldberg finally does beat Triple H for the title on my birthday, Triple H kind of again took another couple of weeks off to kind of heal it, and then by Survivor Series he was back to a full-time schedule.
He was back with his golden shovel, burying everybody. That Triple H run, I don't want to get off too far off into.
I will agree with what you're about to say because I know where you're going.
That Triple H golden shovel run it wasn't good when he was the guy on Raw and just.
I agree.
Yeah,
I may be a fan of the man, but I know when. What he was doing at that point, and of course with Bischoff and everything, I get it.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he was the golden boy of WWE that did no wrong. He's got his hands dirty, just like plenty of top stars in the business have gotten their hands dirty. Unfortunately, his may be a little dirtier than most
because he had more power than everybody else. Because
exactly that timeline from 03 to 05, I agree with you.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. But
after that timeline, I don't, because I don't think he did it as much, or if at all. That's a conversation for another day. But in 2003, I get it. I saw it. Shelton Benjamin, RVD, Goldberg, Kane. It was just one after the other, and it kept happening. Even he did it to his boy Shawn Michaels. I saw it.
I just don't understand the whole. You put the title on Goldberg, and you just take it off of him.
Very fast.
Yeah. Supposedly, Pritchard says, "Oh, we didn't have." They wanted to build up Goldberg slowly, but he only signed the 1-year deal, so we had to expedite everything. We had to rush through everything.
Which is true, especially with the every other month pay-per-view. Yeah. They really didn't have enough time to do it all.
But why would you need to build Goldberg again?
You don't need to build him. He's already there.
So I never understood that. Them to put the title on him and then take it off of him.
Not only take it off of him. Okay, he wins it at the September pay-per-view.
Right.
He keeps it. He defends it at Survivor Series. And then you put him in a triple threat match at Armageddon, and that's where he loses it.
Right.
When he fought Kane and Triple H.
And I thought that they were heading to Goldberg versus Brock, champion versus champion, because at Survivor Series they teased it backstage. Remember?
That's where they started.
They both have the belts, and Goldberg goes up to him and says, "Hey, Brock, I'm Bill Goldberg," or something like that.
Yeah.
And then Brock just kind of looks at him. So I thought that's where they were going, which they did, but it wasn't champion versus champion.
Oh, that match was just horrible.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But
yeah.
So when they took it off of him.
They took it off him at Armageddon.
At Armageddon, yeah.
He defended it against Triple H and Kane, which Kane had no business being in that match anyway.
Well, the story behind that was it was supposed to be Kevin Nash, but then Kevin Nash got injured.
Got hurt again, yeah.
Got injured.
I don't even know if I would have enjoyed that anymore, because you got a feud going with Triple H. Let's keep it going one-on-one.
Well,
and he's already beaten him twice in a row now.
It was supposed to be a Kevin Nash versus Goldberg feud, and they were going to reference what happened in WCW. I'm the one that ended the streak or whatever. Mm-hmm. But Nash was so broken down by then too that I didn't see that going anywhere anyway.
By the time he came back in 2003 and he kept the Punisher look from doing the movie.
Yeah, no.
Because not to sidetrack on his return there, but they jumped the gun. Remember when he came back and at Backlash, they were trying to figure out if he was going to team with Shawn Michaels or if he was going to be with Triple H, but yet they already booked the match and they advertised it that it was.
That's right. We already knew.
that yeah, with Shawn Michaels, Booker T, and Kevin Nash versus Triple H and whoever,
Yeah.
and they jumped the gun on that, and Triple H is like, "What's up, buddy? You know, like, are we friends and this and that?" And I'm like, "Why are we doing this? We already know they're
We
going to
already
fight."
know. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And then Nash got was made to look bad, and again, I agree with you because Triple H made Nash look bad in the matches, including that Hell in a Cell
yeah.
match.
Terrible.
Then they go to Elimination Chamber, and same thing. So yeah, I do agree with you for that year with Triple H, absolutely. But Kevin Nash from the moment he came back was just it wasn't him. It wasn't even Diesel. I
No.
mean, I don't even know what we had. Vinny Vegas for all we know.
Yeah.
It just wasn't the guy that was top guy in WCW and WWE. It just
Mhm.
wasn't. So now Goldberg has no title, and so he goes to the Royal Rumble. He entered was it number 30 in the 2004 Rumble, and he started going through everybody.
He was cleaning house.
Yep,
Then he
until
had
one
that
guy got
beard.
a hold of him.
He had that beard. I don't even know why he had
I
that beard.
liked it.
Remember that?
I
No,
liked it.
it was a
It
different.
fit.
It was a different look, but I didn't kind of understand it because it felt like it came out of nowhere.
Well, at the time, also weren't they? They said something about he was suspended indefinitely, unless that was after the Rumble,
That's.
which was
I think
stupid.
that was after the Rumble. I guess.
I never like when they do those storylines anyway. They just it's dumb. They do it
Some,
too many. They do it too many times.
something happens too with Goldberg where he actually does get suspended though, or Vince sends him home because I think it was after he lost the title. No, it's after he loses the title to
Between
Triple H
Armageddon and the Rumble.
that he destroys the locker room
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah,
everybody.
yeah. Now I remember that. Yeah.
And there was a lot of people there, and it was legitimate. Like he legitimately destroyed the locker room, was going crazy, and Vince sent them home for like a couple weeks or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because shortly after that, then you didn't really see him until the
yeah.
Rumble,
It comes in with the beard.
and then even after the Rumble, you don't see him, but for maybe one or two Raws, and that's when Austin gave him the ticket to go to No Way Out.
Right, right.
But with the Rumble, he was eliminated by Kurt Angle.
But
But
Brock interferes.
he F5'd him,
Yeah, he F5'd
which was setting up this match, which everybody wanted to see. But unfortunately, because both guys were leaving, everybody knew that this match was going to stink up the place. And I was really, really upset when I watched it.
He does one cool thing though. I think it's with Theodore Long and the with Roddy Mack, the White Boy Challenge when
Yeah.
they said challenge anybody, and then Goldberg came out and just went to town.
Yeah, I remember that a little bit because as Goldberg's coming out in the pyro, that was the best part. Was Rodney Mack comes out, he goes through the pyro to start beating him down, and then Goldberg just spears him through the pyro.
Yep.
But the pop that the fans gave Goldberg at the Madison Square Garden was just unbelievable.
It was crazy, yeah.
Oh my God,
yeah.
So, yeah, that. I vaguely, when you brought that up, I vaguely remember that, but I was like, yeah, that's what Rodney Mack was doing with Teddy Long back then, and Goldberg won the match. I know that.
So,
but
then
yeah,
I guess in a no. What happens with Austin? Austin gets involved in that whole no way out thing, right?
Austin gave him a ticket to be in attendance because Brock Lesnar was defending the title against Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, but didn't something happen with Austin? Did he get F5'd or something? Something happened with Austin. Right?
Austin had his buggy, well, whatever, the Doom buggy. He was confiscated by Lesnar.
That's what it was.
Lesnar stole it from him, and when Austin finally got his hands on him, he beat the crap out of him.
Right.
Which everybody was looking for because we were supposed to see that match a year prior.
Right. But at that point,
2 years prior.
But at that point, Austin's he's retired from wrestling in an actual ring.
But when Austin came down, and I think it was on SmackDown that Austin showed up to get it, and the crowd went nuts because he was beating them all, and then he stunned them, and then he took his buggy but yeah, Lesnar had showed up on Raw and took it.
Right.
So he gives Goldberg the ticket and says, go to the Cow Palace. He goes, don't do anything I wouldn't do.
Right. There you go.
Which everybody knows what this is setting up and what's going to happen. And what's funny is they have him escorted out in the beginning of the night. He had a altercation with Lesnar, and so they get rid of him. His seat is empty. So for the most part during the match, Guerrero is battling Lesnar and whatnot, but Goldberg shows up, spears him, and ultimately Eddie Guerrero beats Brock Lesnar for the
Hmm.
WWE Championship,
Yep.
which leads us to these two guys leaving WWE after March 20th. Now,
The cat.
This WrestleMania was huge. I had just moved here about 6 months prior to this, so I came back to New York for this match, for this pay per view, and because I had seen every WrestleMania in New York, I wasn't going to stop at 20, especially 20. I even tried to get tickets to this thing; it was sold out. It was like literally in 30 minutes. This match was one of the ones I was so looking forward to. Now I do remember prior to this, according to WWE officials, both men were offered contracts to stay, both guaranteed, supposedly, to run either show. For Lesnar, it would have been he would have been the dominant guy on SmackDown. For Goldberg, he would have been the man on Raw running it. They wanted to keep both guys, if one, if they could have gotten lucky. Both guys declined a contract offer. So now you got both of these guys walking out after this match. They stunk up the show, man. With
The
this was the worst match on the card.
the problem was, okay, so Goldberg had already, he didn't even want to be there to begin with.
Yeah.
So he was already miserable. He hated it. He wanted to get the hell out of there. Brock had his own issues. We'll probably get into that in the Brock Lesnar episode. But
Yeah.
the cat gets let out of the bag. Everybody found out. Like, it hit the internet that these guys, this is their last night working. So
Yeah.
the fans just booed them. And once they started booing, these guys were like, whatever.
Okay, yeah, well, let's just get through this.
Let's just get through this. Yeah.
It was just total. It was everything they did. The fans booed when Goldberg speared him. They booed when he got F5, the jackhammer. The only time they cheered is when Austin stunned them both. Yeah, Austin was a special guest referee for the match.
Yeah, I forget what the chant was too. I forget what the chant was.
Oh, no. Hey, goodbye. Because Lesnar was giving the finger to everybody, and then he gave the finger to Austin, and then Austin stunned him. Gave a beer to Goldberg, and then he stunned Goldberg, and the crowd went nuts. And it's a shame because on a stacked card as WrestleMania 20 was, which was supposed to be one of the top matches, the interpromotional match. It was just awful. They had a better match in 2016 in Return of Goldberg in that 1 minute 25-second fight.
Yeah, and the build to it. Yeah, so
yeah, because that whole summer, and eventually, if Goldberg's career ever winds down, I will do part 3 to this series when his career finally ends. But there was a big build-up that summer to that match where they built this up. They did everything right. The only problem was they didn't have a care in the world because Lesnar's like, well, I'm going to go play football. Goldberg's like, well, I'm going anywhere but here.
Yeah, I think had they been able to come with a deal where they would stick around, had it also been champion versus champion, you know, and that could have been a great match, you know, because Brock could wrestle, and so I'm sure he could have figured out a way to make Goldberg look better, you know. So
the problem with Brock, and I'll get this in detail in his episode, they gave him too much too fast. Because at this point now of course he wants to leave because he's already accomplished everything that he needs to accomplish. He's won the King of the Ring. He's won the WWE title 3 times. He's won the Royal Rumble. He's headlined WrestleMania. All of this in the first 2 years. So you've given him literally all of this, and at this point, why should he stick around? Because I've done it all. I've gone toe to toe in a feud with The Undertaker. You've put me against Kurt Angle. You've put me against John Cena. I've faced Rob Van Dam. I have faced Goldberg. What more do I need to do? They pushed him. I think they gave him everything way too fast, and that's one of the reasons that for his decision to be like, all right, I'm leaving.
Yeah,
there was no reason. I mean, okay, you want to give him the King of the Ring and the WWE title shot, but it's just like everything came before he was even there 1 full year. And not to say he wasn't deserving of it, because believe me, he had all the tools and everything he needed as a superstar. He was great. His mic skills were lacking, but that's what you had Paul Heyman for. But the only thing that he did wrong was that shooting star press at WrestleMania 19.
He killed himself.
Oh my God.
But yeah, with Goldberg, I mean, there's a blown opportunity for a major main event, and to me, it was
Yes.
just they ruined Goldberg. Like they blew that opportunity they had with him.
They also tried to do too much and not enough time with him
Yeah,
with
it
that
was
1 year
just
deal
it was
and
almost
again with the pay-per-views being so far apart for Raw because they weren't monthly for them. They didn't start doing that for another couple of years where they combined the two. So there was only so much you can do with them. And then when you're putting them on the same show with Triple H, I mean, honestly, how many times is Triple H going to take a loss to him? And I'm surprised he allowed him to beat him twice. I
yeah,
really am.
yeah,
That shocked me considering what he did
yeah.
that year.
I just feel like it was destined to fail, which is a shame. But
I
I mean,
noticed that when again with the feud with The Rock and Jericho, I kind of once I saw that, especially with the Jericho, I kind of figured, all right, this is where the rest of the year is going to go.
yeah. Well, at least we got to see him in WWE, so
This is true.
there's that. All right, so that's Goldberg's first WWE run. Maybe at some point we'll
I
cover
will
the.
do a part three to this if and when his career ever ends. If he renews his contract next year, it'll be a while before I do it.
So we'll see.
And according to him, he is renewing his contract.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys let us know what you think about Goldberg's WWE career. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What do you think they could have done better,
Should he have
if
stayed?
anything? Yeah.
So our next episode will actually be covering part one of Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
Because with Goldberg comes Lesnar. There are
Yeah.
two peas in a pod.
Yep.
So if we're going to do Goldberg, we're going to do Brock Lesnar.
Yep.
So his will be a two-part series. Our first part will be covering his first WWE run in 2002 to 2004.
Yep. All right. So you guys make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and see you guys soon.
Take care, guys.